So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to get started with this story about George Santos. So for those who are not aware, George Santos, he's a representative in Congress. He represents, I believe it's that Staten Island version of New York. So he is a Republican. You know, the moment that George Santos actually took his seat, there have been a lot of accusations against George Santos. One of them being that he lied about his resume. So a couple of things that he did. He said that he worked for Goldman Sachs. Apparently that was not true. I don't know why he picked a company as big as Goldman Sachs to choose to say he lied he worked at. It just didn't make any sense. He also said that he attended NYU, which also was not true. So back and forth along the way, there's been this question, who is George Santos? This guy says he's everything. He also claimed that he was Jewish at one point. Come to find out that that's not true. But the reason why George Santos has been expelled from Congress more so has to do with campaign finance reform. So apparently he has violated some laws in reference to that. And the House finally did vote in agreement to expel George Santos. I want to go ahead and get started with this clip here from CNN. Let's go ahead and get into it.
We are going to go now to the floor and listen to what's happening. It looks as though they're going to begin this vote. Let's listen in.
And I'll pause it here. I just want you to see the numbers as they're coming in, right? So we have yay, nay, present. Okay, and then this is total. Let's see.
It's going to be 5 minutes. They can hold it open for longer, but as Bonnie suggested, it's not likely to go much longer than that.
But you can
see how quickly people are actually voting.
And just watch the bottom number on the left under yay. Now, I guess we don't know if there are 435 members voting today. At least I don't. If there are, that number needs to be 290 to expel George Santos.
That's right, because there's 2/3 supermajority needed in this particular action. I want to get to you, David Chalian.
Before she gets to David, remember 290 people have to vote yes to expel him. And what's interesting about this vote, if you pay attention here, look at Republican and look at Democrat, notice that even Republicans are voting to expel George Santos. Right now it says 44, 48 have said nay. But I think that's a very telling moment here that even some of the Republicans are voting to remove George Santos.
Looking at all this and hearing how this really what might be considered a major shift from thinking he was going to get pushed out and expelled to now seeing this shift. What does that tell you about leadership? Even though they aren't whipping the votes, they are making their statement very clear by saying they are not voting to expel.
Right. We heard Speaker Johnson earlier in the week say this should be a vote that is a matter of conscience. I would imagine all votes for members of Congress should be a vote of matter of conscience. But he said that he was uncomfortable with it. And then today, obviously, the dramatic development of him saying that he is indeed going to vote against this resolution to expel Santos. And as you're discussing, I mean, I think both things can be true, right? It could be both the process precedent and the politics that are dictating motivations here. I do think it's worth noting, guys, if indeed Santos survives this, and we'll see, you're up to 200 yay votes now as you're looking for that 2/3 majority. And as John noted, if all 435 members are present and voting, that'll be 290 to get him expelled. But I would just say, if indeed he survives this, Democrats would indeed get the best outcome here in the sense that they get to vote to expel him and yet keep him as a poster boy to run against the Republican Party overall over the next many months.
And again,
and so you'll see here continuing again, these numbers continue to increase. Now, obviously, right now, there are more Republicans that voted nay, but still the number of yays are also increasing. So George Santos, but I want to be very clear here, too. I don't want people to assume that just because George Santos was expelled, that his career is over, that it's over for him, because there's something else I'm going to show you after this clip. I'm going to show you how George Santos is still going to be able to benefit from his time in Congress, even though he is expelled. Believe it or not, he will still benefit.
The other number, I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just keep an eye on what is happening. What you're seeing is The Republican number of who is voting in favor of expelling, the yays, is at 76 right now. Now it's at 77. If all members are voting in the chamber and voting, they have now, and all Democrats are voting to expel him. They have potentially passed the threshold of expelling him. However, an important note, they can change their votes. Right. So we do not call this, no one declares anything until the gavel lands. They still have 2 minutes plus left on here. Let's leave this up, guys, and bring up Manu Raju.
Yeah, just again, this number right here, 85, is absolutely enough to boot him if they don't change those votes right now.
For context, let's talk about the last vote and how what he survived. The last vote to expel, it was 179 in favor. That included 24.
Yeah, so I do want to mention, just in case people forgot, this isn't the first time they voted to expel George Santos. They did so before. He survived that for some reason. This time around, he did not. And it could be he survived it the first time because maybe some of the politicians felt like there wasn't enough damning evidence. I don't know how they would see there wasn't, but enough damning evidence to expel him at that point in time. But more information has been released since that last vote. So just one thing to keep in mind. I'm going to fast forward here just a little bit so we can go to him.
Was 77. So unless something dramatically changes, this will be a historic and unprecedented vote where George Santos will be the first member ever to be expelled who has not been convicted of a crime, did not participate as the Confederate in the Civil War. But these allegations appearing to be so damning that members said that it is enough. It is time to kick him out of the chamber. I just talked to one of them, Carlos Jimenez of Florida. He said that I asked him about the precedent. Is he concerned about setting the precedent? He said, well, if the precedent shouldn't be lying and stealing from your donors, that should be enough to get you out of Congress. And apparently that's how a lot of the Republicans felt here. 89 Republicans right now are there. Was 90 Republicans. There's still 48 people who have not voted yet. They need to get that magic number of 290 if all members are present and voting, and we'll see ultimately if they can get there. But at the moment, he is on his way out of Congress, which would set up a special election. And a seat that Democrats could pick up, it could make Mike Johnson's job even harder to advance his agenda because
they just got to 290.
One member.
And they just hit 290. One thing I want to add about taking money from donors, I don't think that George Santos is the first politician to do that. I think he just happened to get caught, right? So he was caught. He wasn't as fortunate as some of the others who may have done the same thing. So I don't want people to think that this has never happened before, that there aren't other candidates that have done this as well. I think he just happened to get caught. So I'm going to go forward a little bit here after they had just reached 290. So you'll see here, I want you to see the number. Now, at this point, it says 101 Republicans voted yay. Of course, 205 Democrats voted yay. There was one Democrat that voted nay. I don't know why anyone would vote present, but one voted present at that point in time. But very interesting.
Evenly split here. 102 Republicans now voting to expel George Santos. That is a very big number. That was far more than what was actually needed in order to expel George Santos. Now, they haven't brought down the gavel yet, so it's not final. Nothing's final till it's final around here. But it certainly looks like George Santos is on track to become just the 6th member ever expelled and bringing an end to his very brief congressional career that was filled with drama, scandals, and lies. Now, in terms of what happens next year, I mean, this is going to be treated like a vacancy. So the clerk will assume control of his office, will make decisions on behalf of his office. George Santos, for his part, said that he will go home and he will pack up his office and head back to New York tomorrow, and that he will go sort of quietly into the night. And then at some point, the governor of New York is going to have to call a special election in the next 10 days. That would set up a special election sometime in the next 70 to 80 days from now. It's going to be a tough race because this is a Biden seat. It's a blue district. This is something that Democrats have a very strong chance at flipping, and in the short term, it's going to narrow the already.
Melanie, hang on for a second. We want to get to Manu Raju, who's got someone with him. Manu.
So I want to pause here for a second before we get to the coverage outside of Congress. One of the things for those of you that live in that district, yes, there is a special election that will be coming your way because they do have to fill that seat. So pay attention and stay tuned for that. That will be happening. Here we go here right outside Capitol.
George Santos there. George Santos coming down the stairs there of the Capitol. Now you hear Monty trying to get to him, and as soon as he gets to him, it looks like he isn't saying anything to anyone. He has been talking a heck of a lot before this vote, but now you see this vote, 310. The threshold was 290 to kick him out. We are waiting to see if he says anything there. Let's listen in. Nope, jumped in the car, closed the door,
and took off.
Santos, any comment? Mr. Santos, any comment?
Wait, let's go to the House floor, guys. He just gavelled. The speaker's gaveling. Go to the House floor.
Done. Just like that, George was gone.
Speaker Johnson is in the chair, which is quite significant. Let's stand by and see what he's about to say. I just saw him drop the gavel.
So that's 311 yays.
Here we go.
Again, the people who voted present are hilarious to me.
On this vote, the yeas are 311, the nays are 114, with 2 recorded as present. 2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
There you go. So that is it for George Santos. He is gone. However, he is not the only member to be expelled. So I do want to go ahead and share that as well. Oh, I thought I had that. 1 second. Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me pull that up. Yeah, he's not the only one that's been expelled. I did see something from MSNBC. I want to go ahead and pull that up as well, because I do want you to see who the other people were that were expelled as well. Let's see. So let me pull this up. Here it is. Okay. So he actually becomes the 6th member to be expelled. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Some of these go really, really far back, but you'll see. You may recognize some of these people. I did not. I did not. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen here. So again, George Santos expelled from Congress. He is the 6th member of the House to be expelled. Let's take a look at the history here.
With that, Santos is now a former member of Congress. He is the 6th member of the House to be expelled in all of American history. Here are the other 5. You could add Santos to this list and just think about the gravity of what it took to expel these members in the past. These 3, you see in the top row here, all 1861. That was the start of the Civil War. Each one of them took up arms.
So let's go back. I'm going to pause here so you can just see the names. We have John B. Clark, 1861, John Reed, 1861, Henry. Oh, he's standing in front of Henry. We'll get back to Henry. Michael Myers, and no, not Michael Myers from Halloween, but Michael Myers and James Trafficant. So let's continue.
The gravity of what it took to expel these members in the past. These 3, you see in the top row here, all 1861. That was the start of the Civil War. Each one of them took up arms for the Confederacy. They were expelled from the House. Michael Myers from Pennsylvania in 1980. He had been snared in the FBI sting operation known as Abscam, accepted a $50,000 bribe, refused to resign his seat. He was expelled. And then in 2002, James Trafficant from Ohio, colorful member of Congress. He had been convicted of multiple federal corruption charges in the spring of '02. In the summer of '02, the House voted 420-1 to expel him. So those are the 5 who this has happened to before. Santos becomes the 6th. There are a few others in history who have faced expulsion votes but haven't actually been expelled. Santos was hoping to join this company today.
Pause here because I do know one of these guys. So these were other expulsion attempts. Preston Brooks, 1856. Lavelle Rousseau, 1866. And this guy right here, Barney Frank, 1990, actually failed. Barney Frank was from Massachusetts. So that's why I remember Barney Frank being one of those attempts as well. So this is just, it's wild, man, when you look at it.
But it is this list instead that he joins. 6 in American history. You just saw the 6th moments ago.
Okay, but here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Here's something that you may not be aware of. Even though George Santos has been expelled from Congress, it appears he will still be able to receive benefits and perks, even though he is no longer in the House. So this is the part I really wanted to tell you about. George Santos may get to enjoy all sorts of exclusive lawmaker-only perks, including the ability to walk onto the House floor, even though he's been expelled from Congress. This is the piece I think a lot of people may not be aware of. You can still see George Santos' face in the future if he wants it to be. It says Representative George Santos of New York was expelled from the House on Friday. The scandal-plagued Republican apparently expected that to happen, declaring during a profanity-laden tirade against his colleagues that he would wear his expulsion like a badge of honor. He was expelled on Friday by a 311-114 vote, with 2 lawmakers voting present. 112 House Republicans and 2 Democrats voted against expelling him. But as it turns out, that is not the end of the story. Here we go. He will become a former member of Congress, says Daniel Schumann, the director of governments at the Pop Vox Foundation. Former members of Congress have a lot of privileges. Wait for it, folks. Those privileges, which would also apply if he resigned, typically include the ability to walk onto the House floor, to use lawmaker-only facilities, and even purchase and perhaps auction off their own office furniture. In other words, George Santos may be able to keep LARPing as a member of Congress, even though he's been expelled. Now, pause here for a second. How many of you knew that? How many of you knew that even if you're expelled from Congress, you still get to maintain some of those privileges? Think about it. This guy's obviously corrupt. I don't think he's the only politician in the House that's corrupt, but his corruption was actually caught, right? So he's actually being held accountable, but he's still allowed to walk onto the House floor whenever he feels like it. Just like, what's up, guys? I'm back. I am back. But Santos could be denied some of these perks, and at least one group says it's already prepared to do so. It goes on to say he could keep hanging out on the House floor. It is not uncommon to see former members in the chamber when the House is in session. Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, a member of the House until last year, was spotted hanging out on the floor during the most recent speakership fight. According to House rules, any former lawmaker can walk onto the floor unless they are a lobbyist or a foreign agent, have a direct personal or financial interest in the bill being considered, or have been convicted of a crime in relation to the individual's election or service to the House. That last one is fairly relevant here. Santos is set to go to trial next September for a bevy of charges related to his campaign. But if Santos' former colleagues want to keep him from loitering around until a possible criminal conviction forbids him from doing so, they could take action on their own. They could pass a resolution to exclude him from the House. So that's one thing they can do. And then there's this piece here. He can keep using lawmakers only gym and dining facilities. So this is one of the privileges that members of Congress get. They have certain gym privileges and dining facilities. I personally believe that gyms should be free to the public. Not everybody can afford a gym membership. So I always wish there was something like that in place, someone who was willing to open a free gym and just have it be publicly funded. But yeah, he gets to maintain that. Under House rules and by custom, former lawmakers, as long as they're not registered lobbyists, have typically been allowed access to the House gym as long as they pay a fee. They can also use parking garages in the Capitol complex and have access to seating in the House restaurant facilities and members' dining room. That would be interesting. Who'd you have lunch with today? George. He could buy his own desk for $1,000 and probably auction it off for a handsome profit. According to a 2008 Congressional Research Service report, outgoing lawmakers are allowed to purchase their own office furniture. That report says lawmakers can buy their desks for $1,000 and their chairs for $500. They can also purchase their district office furniture. And this is something that if he wanted to, he could sell this on Craigslist, eBay. Considering he's a controversial figure, somebody out there would actually buy it, believe it or not. They'll be able to say, I have George Santos' desk, man. If you're George Santos and have been accused of bilking campaign donors to buy Botox and OnlyFans, you've got to be thinking of the potential for one last grift. And let's face it, he could make a decent chunk of change by auctioning off his desk. It goes on to say here, exclusive group for former lawmakers wants nothing to do with Santos. Typically, former members of Congress are invited to join the U.S. Association of Former Members of Congress, an organization chartered by Congress in 1983 that boasts more than 800 members. The group markets itself as the premier vehicle to keep former lawmakers engaged in government and connected to each other after their federal public service has ended, including via fancy receptions and travel and speaking opportunities. See, again, these are just some of the benefits that congressional members receive. But in a statement to Business Insider on Monday, the group made clear that it wanted nothing to do with Santos. We welcome all members who have completed their service in the House or Senate to join our organization, provided they are in good standing. Given the litany of substantiated allegations in the bipartisan House Ethics Committee report, Congressman Santos would not fall into that category. Now, this piece right here is important. He won't receive any pension benefits. Remember, if I remember correctly, I believe you have to serve for 5 years before you get the pension. So he didn't make it that long. Despite all these other perks, Santos won't receive a pension. It goes on to say Congress only receive pension benefits if they've served in the House for 5 years or more. Santos hasn't been in office for 11 months. So just something to add to that story there that you may not have been aware of, that there are some privileges and benefits that George Santos will actually be able to retain. But other than that, George is gone. Desert Mantis says Santos is almost as good a liar as Joe Biden. Rohan said Bernie Sanders and the squad lied to their donors as well. This is true. Deneen says he's a con man, so Congress is the perfect place for him. And Jade says kicked out for lying. We should have no one left. I hear you. I hear you, Jade.